Welcome to 8th live session for the course Usability Engineering. My name is Neelarnab Dutta. I'm a PMRF fellow from the Department of Design, IIT Guwahati. So in this particular class, I'll be discussing about key concept from week 8 lecture videos, and I'll be covering the concepts as well as I will clarify your doubts, which will help you in solving the assignments for week 8. Okay. So let's start with some recap from previous lecture. So in the previous class, we have discussed about what is cognition and what are various cognitive processes. So we discussed about cognitive processes like attention, okay, then language processing, then how learning happens, memory, what are different types of memories like long-term memory, short-term memory, then perception, and thoughts. Okay, so these are various cognitive processes which we use, which are involved in any task execution. So apart from the physiological activities or various navigational activities we perform uh, in any task, there are also cognitive tasks which are cognitive activities which involve inside the person's head, which we have to analyze during a usability study. Okay, and in the last class we discussed about two theories. One was cognitive load theory, which discussed three types of cognitive load: extragenous cognitive load, which is basically associated with instructional design. Okay, so if you make the design of the instructions not very clear, then this kind of cognitive load happens. Then there is German cognitive load, which is generic in nature, which generally happens when people try to construct themes, process information, and try to form information in the form of schemas. So this is generic in nature. Then we have the other type of cognitive load, which is intrinsic cognitive load, which is inherent to complexity of a subject area. So for example, if a designer who have no exposure into uh, electronics, then, and if he have to study or work on some electronic project, probably he will have this sort of cognitive load. Okay. We also discuss about information processing theory, which describe that there are three types of memories involved while information processing. One is sensory memory, which is related to our senses, our sensory organs. Like we have ear, we have eyes. So all visual and auditory informations uh, are analyzed based on sensory memories. Then we have working memory, which are short-term memories. So these generally manage real-time informations, and our brain processes informations into smaller chunks of informations, and which form schemas for later storage in long-term memories. The other type of memory is long-term memory, which is again serve as a permanent storage for information. So both understanding of these two theories of information processing as well as human cognition are important in understanding their uses in usability engineering. And after that, we discuss about mental model versus conceptual model. So we discussed what is a mental model and what is a conceptual model. So mental model is basically uh, the perception of a user about a solution space. Okay, so and the conceptual model is what the designer define as a solution based on the understanding of user requirements. And if there is no match between mental model of a user and the conceptual model of a designer, what we have discussed is there exists gulf of execution and gulf of evaluation. Gulf of evaluation. Gulf of evaluation means a user is finding difficulty in understanding and processing the information that the designer has provided in a design. Then gulf of execution is that a user is finding difficulty in actually identifying the features to execute any particular task. So these are two barriers which are involved when the mental model of a user is not in sync with the conceptual model of a designer. Okay, so as a designer we need to understand the user requirements as well as users mental model, so that we come up with a design which have minimum gulf of execution as well as gulf of evaluation. Then we discussed about two quantitative ways of identifying cognitive load as well as cognitive processes. One was keystroke level model, which is also known as KLM model. The other one is GOMS. So KLM stands for keystroke level model, and it tries to define 7 operators under 3 categories. Okay, so the categories were physical operators, mental operators, as well as system response operators. This is defined by R. So as discussed in the previous class, so when we do any activities as a part of usability analysis, for example, if when you are navigating a website or when you are operating a device, we perform such physical activities like key press, mouse button press, cursor pointing, etc., etc. So KLM defines these as physical operators. Then we also need to we need to perform certain mental processing while deciding certain particular action, or while deciding on particular navigation. So those are defined as mental operators, and that those are represented as M. Then system response means the time the system takes to respond in against the user input. Okay, so KLM define some average timings for all these activities. For example, key press may take 0.03 second, mouse button 0.5 second, and these datas of various timing are actually defined based on past empirical analysis of a large set of experiments, and based on this we generalized these timings for these operators. And this set of operators, like physical, mental, and system operators, can be used later for analysis of any website or any user interface, where for example, if you are using Amazon website for buying a particular t-shirt, you can perform certain physical operation. For example, you can move your cursor to a particular position, which is cursor pointing P. Then probably you will click a particular button, which is B, and then you type something which will be multiple key press, probably 5 times key press, and after that you buy a particular shirt. So in total, the time you will be requiring probably something like 5.4 seconds. So KLM try to give you a numerical value for all the actions you perform as a physical activity as well as a mental activity. Okay, and based on these timings you can compare two different user interfaces. So if you have two different design, one is having a different navigation and uh, flow of actions, and you can compare both using KLM based on their efficiency in executing a particular task. Similarly, the other technique we discussed in the last class was GOMS. So GOMS stand for goal, operators, method, and selection. So here we first we define a goal. For example, in a Amazon website, if our goal is to buy a T-shirt, then that we set as a goal. Then we try to identify different methods by which we can actually purchase this T-shirt. For example, you can actually go by menu system, and then go by different categories and find a shirt, t-shirt, and then actually you can select and buy. There are other option can be actually typing t-shirt on the search bar. So these, when we have different methods involved within the same website, we can compare them using GOMS method to identify the most efficient and most effective way of navigation. So this is generally this particular technique we generally use in combination with KLM in order to identify the most appropriate method which can actually provide faster navigation within a particular website. And this is also done to identify those content which needs to be created as a shortcut for expert users. Okay, so today's topic is about competitive analysis and benchmarking, which is a under important work, under important task that we need to finish before we actually go about designing our UX solution. Okay, so before, so previously we have discussed about various topics of user study, both qualitative and quantitative. Then we discuss about how to analyze, user study data. Okay, so till last class we have finished analysis of user data using both qualitative as well as quantitative methodologies. Now in today's class we'll be discussing about what is competitive analysis and what is the significance of competitive analysis in designing a UX solution. Yeah. Okay, so competitive analysis allow us to assess products, solutions available in the marketplace. Okay, for example, you have the smartphone market where you have phones from different companies, different brands. Okay, so you have phone from Samsung, you have phone from Apple, then we have Vivo, etc., etc. So what we do, we try to do in competitive analysis is to try to identify the strength, weaknesses, and gaps in these competitive products. Okay, so based on their features, we try to compare different products and the companies and try to see what they deliver to the customers. Okay, so based on their features we can and functionalities, we can actually identify particular weakness which they are missing, or we can identify their strength which we also need to consider, and we may find some gaps which can be our unique selling point which we can choose later to design our product. Okay, so for doing all this we need to compare, okay, various competitive products as well as organizations, and that's what we do in competitive analysis. An example can be like comparing smartphone versus your button phones. Okay, so when we do such kind of competitive analysis, we can identify market trend. Okay, so identifying market trend is also one of the important aspect that we consider when we do competitive analysis. So what happened to Nokia in 2010-11 is that they did not consider that there could be a change in the market space in terms of new design arrival, okay, or new functionality arrival. So Nokia got stuck with their old designs which were button based phones, and when smartphone came to the market from by Apple or Samsung, and they could not cope up with the competition, and they did not have done their R&D at that time, so they could not arrive at their solution which is better than a smartphone. Okay, so that's why Nokia failed in 2011 when smartphone arrive in the market space. So it's also important when we do competitive analysis that we try to see where the market trend is going. Okay, what sort of features are actually declining and what sort of features actually which what sort of features are actually catching in the trend. Okay, so these sort of analysis we do. Now the benefit of competitive analysis for a designer is that we can identify unique value proposition. Okay, now what do you mean by unique value proposition? So unique value proposition means whatever values means whatever features, benefits the competitive products provide. So when you compare various competitive products, for example, product 1, product 2, product 3. Now product 1, think like a Nokia phone. Product 2, think assume like a Samsung phone. And product 3, assume something like a foldable phone, which is a Vivo phone, which is foldable. Okay, now when you compare them against various features that you have in your mind. For example, you have feature 1, feature 2, feature 3, and you see, okay, this you rate this feature for that particular product. For example, if your feature is like touch, then Nokia you will rate low, like 1 out of 5. So there is no touch sensitivity. That means at that time, if we do this in 2011, probably only Nokia N series have few resistive touch phones, which are not that much great compared to your capacitive touch phones. Okay, and when you compare for Samsung, probably you will get 4 out of 5, and for foldable phone again 4 out of 5. If your next feature is portable, okay, now this is portable 4 out of 5. This is again, for example, this is portable. This is now Samsung phones are very big, so you can say it is 3 out of 5. But if you have foldable, that means this is 5 out of 5. Okay, when we have a folding phone, that means it is easy to carry and easy to handle. That's why we are giving more score for this particular feature. So likewise, when we compare different products and companies, we understand like what is the strength or weakness of a particular product, and based on that we can select like what we can improve and what we can keep constant and what we can decline. For example, here we can see like Nokia phone have their limitation in terms of touch sensitivity. So we can say like, okay, we need good touch sensitivity. So in terms of value proposition, we can say like our touch sensitivity will be 5 out of 5. Then our portabilities will be again 5 out of 5. Okay, so like that, when you compare this with your new product, you will have your own scores. Okay, so this is what is value proposition. And apart from this, your product also may have some unique features which are absent in these. Okay, so unique value proposition may include features which are advantageous than your competitive products or competitors, and also it can include new features which are absent in in the previous generation products. Then differentiator, identifying differentiator means what make each particular product different to each other, because when you understand like difference between these, we also can compare these differences against their selling, again their market size. Okay, so maybe the particular difference may leads to a bigger market size as well as higher amount of sales. Then opportunity. Now when you compare smartphones, and also we keep ourselves in touch with technology as well as we collect information about user needs, we can identify new opportunities from the perspective of arrival of new technology, or inclusion of new user needs. Okay. So from these aspects, we can actually identify new opportunities, which actually can be a unique value proposition, which can actually leads to unique value proposition to your product. Okay. So this is again same, like we can learn about customer needs when we actually do competitive analysis. When you compare the products which are already there in the market space, we actually know what kind of features people are looking for. For example, when you try to buy a microwave which you have no idea previously, but when you see the specifications of each of the different products available from different companies, for example LG microwave, from Samsung, or from Onida, etc. Now you may identify different features they are providing. Also, you can consider customer reviews from the Amazon website to figure out what people find are good in this particular product or what people find are bad in this particular product. So based on these customer reviews, you can actually identify the missing user requirements that actually you can use to fulfill as a new solution to the market. Okay. So these are the benefits of competitive analysis. Okay, now we need to understand how to conduct a competitive analysis. Okay. First is to outline your goal and define your product. So when you are, as a company, when as an organization, when you enter into market, and if you do not have any strategies or scope, you do not define any scope, then you first needs to define the scope of your solution. So if you are finding, for example, uh, for example if you are, let's take an example from here itself. Okay, so eat away. So let's see. So if you want to establish as a company who will be considering delivery of food items to to various locations, then that's probably one of the key business objectives that you have in your mind. Okay, now when you have such business objectives, which is like high level objectives, what as a company you want to do, you may identify different products that you can actually build as a part of your company. So you may think about actually opening a restaurant. Okay, you can also think about not actually running in restaurant, but you are trying to be a middle person, like a service person who is delivering uh, food from one restaurant to other. So you are more like a middle person, like your Uber Eats or Food Panda. Okay, and you can be also someone who is like a resort kind of thing, where you actually also you provide fooding as well as lodging, etc. Now, depending upon your products, the way you want to actually go about a business, you may have different business goals again. Now, when you try to do a competitive analysis, first you need to identify the product that you want to. If you want, you need to define your target product, which you want to which you want to focus on as a business. Now as a business, when you try to focus on something like like a delivery service, okay, which is a service based eatery company, then probably you need to focus on mobile apps. Okay, now comparing your mobile app against the competition is of importance. So that's what it says. First define your goal, what as a business you want to do or what you want to compare. Select your particular product, that, and also you need to identify what sort of competitive analysis you want to perform. So when you say competitive analysis, There are different kind of competitive analysis we can do. One can be like understanding the competitive landscape. So that means try to understand what all companies exist in that particular area and what they do. So this is very broad. Competitive landscaping. Competitive landscaping. Another thing can be like after competitive landscaping, you can identify uh, the target groups. Okay, target groups based on different customer profile. You can try to identify what kind of difficulties they face. Okay. So like that, you can also try to identify what is the unique selling points of various competitors. You can also try to understand what are various threats exist. Okay. Also, you try to understand what based on the various features that the competitor products provide, how they those can be segmented into different groups. So all such kind of analysis you can do when you do competitive analysis, but you need to you need to identify, figure out what sort of competitive analysis you want to perform and on what product. Okay. Next is identifying a list of direct and indirect competitors. Now, direct competitors means those companies who sell products similar to your product. For example, if you are a vacuum cleaner company, so you will consider all those people or all those companies who make vacuum cleaners as your direct competitors. Now, indirect competitors are those who do not sell exactly your product but they satisfy the same need. That means instead of vacuum cleaner, now you need to consider all those companies also who actually sell broomsticks, okay, or other sort of cleaning devices, because they serve the same need although they are not manufacturing the same product. So you need to create this list of direct and indirect competitors, and then you need to compare. But before comparing, you need to identify the set of features against which you are going to compare the competitive products or the companies. So the third task is to identify the list of features and elements. Now, if I give an example for a UX solution like a mobile banking app, so you might have different, for example, take this example of Uber Eats. So if you are running a food service company and you want to have a new product, which is a mobile application, so that people can order food which using your application, then you can compare your first you can before comparing, which is called benchmarking. We're not asking here to do benchmarking, but you are trying to see what competitive products deliver. Okay, so in competitive products you will find there are products from Food Panda, which is a app again. There are Uber Eats, there is Zomato, there is Swiggy. Now, when you try to compare these, how you will compare? So, to compare these companies, you need to have some set of features. Now, here are examples like how features can look. So, design, that means design like how beautiful or how simple is the look and feel of the particular interface that mobile application provide. Okay, so this is one of the aspect probably which will drive people because it is easy to navigate. You know, probably some companies have difficult navigation or they have a difficult user interface to actually provide information about how to choose particular restaurant, how to select particular recipe, etc. So design is maybe an important feature which you will consider to evaluate all these various companies. Then images. Now, authenticity of images. So many companies may use fake images, internet images about food item, but you want to see by comparing these companies like who actually provide the most authentic images for the food items they provide. Okay. Then search results. Search results may be like when you search for certain food item, are they giving you right results? Okay. Then filters. Do they provide any sort of filters? Quick quick way of selecting recipes. Then sorting. Can you sort the restaurants or the food items based on their prices, based on their location, etc. Okay, so these can be various features which actually you can use to compare various companies and their products. So like that, you first select a set of features which you will be using for competitive analysis. Now, here I would like to say like benchmarking is one of the one particular aspect of competitive analysis which we do when we try to compare our product with the competitive product, or we try to compare a previous version of our product with the next version. Okay, so for benchmarking we actually need to have our own product, but for competitive analysis we do not need to have our own product. We just can compare the competition, the competitive products, and then evaluate to understand what we require, what unique value proposition we will be providing, etc. Okay, so after we select our features, we can then identify the differences among the products. So as I gave the example of the Nokia phone, then your smartphone, as well as the folding phone. Okay, you can identify their strength. Okay, so these are like some features that you have selected, but these are not definitive. You can actually choose your own set of features for identifying the differences among the various competitors. Now, when you try to compare your product proposition against the competition, you formulate these. Okay, after you do a comparison between all the competitions. So as I told you in the previous case, you try to see what strength each competitors provide. You try to see what are their weaknesses. Okay, like that, what is the price of their product. Okay, pricing is also very important because in various countries where you have resource constraint setting, price and affordability matters. And though you have very good features, people are still looking for affordability. Then information from social media. Okay, then it can be like onboarding experience. So all these can be features, like these can be the same features which we previously selected, and then we try to define in terms of wordings what are their strength, weakness, or we can also use some sort of rating. Like here we are providing rating like poor, great, like that also. Either way, we are trying to compare the competitors and then try to establish our own value proposition against those features. Okay, so these features do not got stuck by these features only. So these can be varying. These can be the same features like this. And then when you see like you can compare, you can put some rating for different features. You can then make a new column for your proposed product, and then you can actually identify your requirements. For example, you want to make the design great. Okay, but see here rest of the things are not rated. Okay, so like that, search results you want to make it great. So like that, you want to have the best out of all the features, but some of them can be also constraints. So you need to make your choice properly, with whom you want to actually improve, whom you want to exclude. Okay, so these things you need to keep in mind when you're actually selecting features for your product. Okay, so this is how we compare. Now, see, these is a generic way how we conduct competitive analysis. There are also frameworks provided which provide those features based on which you can actually compare the various competitive products or companies. Okay. And depending upon your requirement, your competitive analysis requirement, you have different frameworks for performing competitive analysis. Okay, so the first one I'll be discussing here is SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. Now, strength and weakness are internal factors to your company as well as to your product. So these are internal. And opportunity and threats are the external factors. That means when you have beautiful design, good navigation, all these are strength. When you have bad service, okay, and you have poor manpower, all probably are the weaknesses inside your company. So these are internal factors. Opportunities may be when you have opportunities from outside because of your design or because of your product. Those are the external opportunities. Then external threats can be again those things which can actually hamper, which can affect your journey, your market entry. Those can be threats. Now we compare the strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat of we use these as the features, and we compare various competitions and our unique value proposition and try to see where we stand. So for example, here is a example of a real estate company who try to do SWOT analysis to understand the strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat for their particular company or product. Now, this is not an example for UX solution, but you can consider this as an example which is very similar, because here also you can have application as a product of a real estate company. Now, see, competitor A strength is they have a strong management team. That means managing business information, managing data that has been provided by customer in their portals. All these will be easy, which is the internal strength for that particular company. A weakness can be new in the real estate business because they are new, they have little experience, and they are not no experienced the other factors which actually the old companies are maybe they are exposed to. Opportunities. So opportunity may be higher probability of increase in global operations because of their new product and strong management team. Probably they will get good opportunity in future, and which will probably expand their market in a particular country. Now threats can be a particular software, probably if they are using, okay, which is a software which is used to make their application may be getting costly, or you may have some information that in from next year probably that particular software is going to be out of service, something like that, so which can be a threat. Similarly, computer B strength can be they have expertise in real estate business for last 20 years. Okay, so that means they know how to deal with various scenarios, how people require, what customers are looking for, what are needs, what search they generally perform in their websites, when they're in their applications. But weakness maybe they have limited people, so they have limited reach, so it's very difficult for them to actually expand their business. So as an opportunity, so what they have is like they have good collaboration, which they see as an opportunity to actually grow globally. But what they see as a trade is again unaffordability. For example, since they have limited resources to reach the market, they have to hire more people. And now hiring good people may be expensive to run for a company, so that those can be external threats. So likewise, we compare companies, their products, okay, and then we try to see what you think should be the strength of your company and what should be the weakness. Or no, not sorry, what should be the weakness means like what you see as a weakness in your particular product or in your particular company, what you see as an opportunity and what you see as a threat. So you try to compare various companies and your company's strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats, and then try to do some sort of competitive benchmarking, of your product or of your company. So this is what is SWOT analysis. So here we have these features: strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat to analyze our company and our product. Next is Porter's five forces. Now, Porter's five forces try to identify five things as a company. The main goal is to understand the competitive structure of industry. Now, when you are entering as an organization into a new business, for example, if you choose to enter into a smartphone business, okay, so as an organization, probably if you want to enter into a smartphone business, so you need to understand like what are the threats to new entrants. Okay, so what are the barriers for market entry, that you need to understand. Then bargaining power of buyers. So do the buyers have bargaining power? Do you need to provide them with bargaining power? Okay, that means when you have more products available, that means demand and supply. If you see, if supply is high, when you have more companies already existing in a particular geography, and there are few people, and people may be also larger chunk of people, but if people have more options, okay, then probably people will have bargaining power as a buyer, because as a company you want to have better sales, so you try to actually capture a large population rather than selling your product at a higher margin. So you want to capture more people, so you need to provide some discount to your product, so buyers will have bargaining power. Similarly, suppliers, so the people who supply components, okay, or you as a company, if you supply some products, do you have that bargaining power? Can you actually tell the other party that this is the price and there will be no negotiation? That means you need to see again how many suppliers there. Okay, if you are a supplier, then if there are less number of supplier, you will have more bargaining power. But if you are not a supplier, but you get supplies of components from other suppliers, then again, if there are few companies, few suppliers, then you will not have the supplying power. Threats of substitutes. That means if there are more competition, if you do not provide better quality or better value proposition, probably at lower price, someone will substitute your value proposition, okay, or someone will capture your market. Those are traits of substitutes. Then competitive rivalry. So competitive rivalry are like the competitive products which are providing exact value proposition at exact price point, okay, and people or the customers can choose either your product or their product. Okay, so those are like competitive rivalry. Now when we're actually trying to see, or when you try to use Porter's five forces to analyze the structure of the industry, you will ask yourself the question like how easy is for a new company to set up a shop or to enter a market. Okay, so trade of new entrants. There are distributors who will be looking for commissions, and if previous companies are actually providing better commission, so probably you need to provide more commission, then only you will be you will get entry to a new market. Okay, then bargaining power buyers, all these things I have already explained. So Porter's five forces also allow you to understand like what are the challenges, what are the barriers to enter into a particular industry, and how you want to position your product, how what sort of values, what sort of unique features you want to include in your product so that you can enter a particular market by overcoming these challenges and threats. Okay. Okay, another uh, framework for competitive analysis is strategic group analysis. So strategic group analysis is analysis of organizations into specific cluster based on similarity in strategies. So what you mean here is that you try to see when you try to uh, develop a particular product in terms of strategies, how the competitive products are grouped together. For example, when you are thinking about starting a food franchisee or starting a restaurant business, you try to see how the existing organizations can be grouped based on what they deliver. So here you can see there are companies who actually provide burgers, then these are then some coke, and then fries probably, and these are the companies who actually provide these sort of food items. Okay, Burger King, White Spot, the McDonald's. So these sort of food, so based on the particular strategy or food profile which they think as a strategy to sell their products, you can group these many companies organization together. Again, there are companies or organizations who try to sell fried chicken. So KFC, New York Fries, Viva Tails, all these are companies who actually try to sell fried chicken as their unique value proposition to be in the industry, to be in the food industry. So we are trying to compare here the breadth of menu. That means the various recipes or various food items that we want to sell versus their quality. Now we are grouping here and also we are positioning them in terms of quality. Okay, so it's not only about grouping. So for grouping you don't have to actually have axis. For grouping you can just have groups. So here for example we have something like pellet. Okay, and we have these companies, then there are other food items, so we have these companies. Then for patties I think we have these companies. So for you, if as a organization or as a designer who actually tries to enter, who try to define new strategies or to new features, if it is an example for a smartphone, if you want to think as let's take example, different example. For example, if you think like you want to develop a mobile phone in sorry, not mobile phone, banking application, banking application. Now based on the strategies, the you can actually group different banking application. For example, credit card bill payment can be one of the uh, strategy which you can use to group few banking applications. Similarly, you can also say UPI facility, okay, which can be like Google Pay. You can group few Google Pay. Then you have different UPI applications. Then some allow you to do net banking. a lot of different ways of you know, uh, a lot of different banking options, so those also you can group. Now you want to see like in terms of these banking services which are more reliable. Okay, so like that you can actually map where you can want to position who provide more services and whose services are more reliable. So like that we are comparing here the breadth of the menu versus product quality. So this is another example. Like here we try to see how different car companies provide more product portfolios and how those can be placed in their price list as based on their pricings. Okay, so we can see companies like Toyota, Ford, Honda, Nissan, they have a broad product lineup. Okay, and they have a average pricing, but companies like Hyundai and Kia have low uh, less many options, and also their prices are less. Again, there are companies like Ferrari who have less uh, number of products, but they are very expensive. Then we have BMW, Mercedes Benz, who have again medium line of product, and they are also very expensive. So like that we can actually see how these various companies differ in terms of their strategies, and how we can cluster and position them in such axes. Okay, so this is what is strategic group analysis. This allow you to understand what sort of strategies you can adopt in future. For example, you may actually may choose in probably a new food item which is more quality wise more, and also your as a restaurant you have more items. Okay, or if you want to make a new car, probably you say price will be medium, but I will also have a portfolio of consumer different cars. Like I will have a SUV, I will have a sedan, I will have a hatchback. So you will have range of products which will be not as great as these companies, but it will be more than Ferrari and Hyundai, Kia, but price is again medium. So you can actually look for your market position. So this is how strategic group analysis can be helpful. Next framework is growth share metrics. Now, growth share metrics try to compare various organizations or their products based on market share as well as market growth. Now, we have four quadrants in a growth share metrics. The one which have the low market share and the low growth, what we call as pets, or you can simply say dogs. So dog is a pet, so we can say dogs. Now, these low market share and low market growth products are, although they present in the market, they are very weak. Okay, so it is very difficult for a company to make profit using them. So generally, growth share matrix is useful when you have a multiple products in your company's portfolio, and you want to decide whom to keep or whom you want to improve. Okay, so you use growth share metrics to see, for example, if you are a car company, or if you have, for example, a banking company, and you have different services. For example, as a banking services you have a service like credit card, for example, bill payment, and you say market share of credit card bill payment may be low, and also market growth is very low. So that means this is a service which probably you may not want to keep, because this gives very low profit. Similarly, there is called cash cows, which have a high market share, but their growth is very slow. But you want to keep those because in long run, probably they will provide you more stable profit. Okay. Then also you may have low market size but high growth. So these are generally happens when you have new products in your portfolio. Now when you initially bring new product in your portfolio, for example UPI. So if you when you introduce as a bank a UPI application, probably this is something which is new in the marketplace, so you will have a low market share, but it has a high growth potential by looking at the trend that the competitive products uh, provide. So these kind of products you can consider as low market share but high growth products. So you can keep those, or you can decide whether you want to start developing, or you want to keep, or you want to just not go with such products. Now you have another set of products which are like high market share and high growth. Now these are the most profitable products in your portfolio, which have actually high market share. That means almost you are capturing the entire market, above 50%, 60% you are capturing with your product, and you are also getting very good market growth. So your future is bright with these products, so you call those as stars. Now these are question marks. We call those as question marks because currently they have a low market share, although you have market high market growth. So it's questionable that do you if you want to keep those in your portfolio, or if you want to actually delay their development, or if you want to invest on them or not. Okay, so this is what is called question mark product. Now here's an example. Here's an example how we can use growth share metrics for various products already available. Now imagine you want to example imagine you want to start a TV channel or some channel which is a media basically, and you want to report events, and this is your business. Now you have options already available, and you want to see how they are performing in using these growth share metrics. So now the metrics you have are like return on investment, which is again market share, and then channel growth. Okay, so you have more market share, that means more return on investment, and you have the growth rate. Now you have different social media options, various companies or different options you have already available, which tries to do the same thing. Now for example your TV, the television channel, which actually provide information to you via this TV, or nowadays you have Tata Sky and other sort of companies. Now they have high market share, okay, however their growth rate is almost declined, because they are almost stable. Entire market is flooded with them, and mm, the growth rate is more because it is very popular product. Everyone have those these antennas and TVs, so those are nowadays the products having very high market share, but the growth rate is very low. Then you have outdoor. So outdoor can be like information that you can actually collect from events. Then you have radio, which is like again low market share. Very few people these days listen to radio, but again they have low growth rate. So these are some of the options which you want to avoid. So see, this is a matrix which try to map various options, various competitive products which try to do the same thing that you want to achieve, and you try to map those options in this particular quadrants and try to see who resides where. For example, if you see stars, who are the stars here? The stars here, the CEO Facebook. That means these are the options which you can choose, okay, to get maximum visibility as a news channel. Same thing is like there are also options like Snapchat, Reddit, who use very specific applications whom people sometimes can use, sometimes people may not use. So these have limited market share but have a very good high growth rate. Then you have Twitter, LinkedIn. So they are not primarily used for delivering news, but they have a low. Also, they have a low growth rate because these are also old products. So you can either think of not considering them as competitors, or do not want to think to go in their lines of delivering information. So what you can choose is something like this, which have a high market share but low growth. But you can still choose something like this and like this, which have relatively higher growth rate and have a higher return on investment. So you can choose AdWords or email, and it is better if you can choose something like Facebook or SEO. So you can choose these options and then try to analyze their features, why they have a bigger market share and a bigger growth, and then you can incorporate those in your product. So this is how you do growth share matrix. Okay, and another one is perceptual mapping, which is mapping of people's perception about certain qualities in a two-dimensional coordinates. Okay, so for example, here we have a coordinate system, price versus quality, and you try to map various car companies where they where you can position them. So for example, Volkswagen are like of low price and they are low quality. Then you have Ferrari of high price of high quality. Okay, now these are some of the. Okay, now these are. Okay, okay, sorry for the interruption. Okay, so in perceptual mapping, you try to map, as I told you, map the information and the competitive products about competitive products as well as companies into set of quadrants where you define the particular matrices, the particular value based on which you want to position. You have to check the position of a particular product. For example, for cars, you are trying to see the position of a particular company in terms of price and quality. Similarly, you can also position the particular car based on their nature of their design. For example, design like a sportsy car versus a conservative car versus a affordable car versus a classic car. Now, when you position, you will see which particular segment you want to actually enter. Okay, and these are all based on people's perception, people's review. Now, when you do such kind of perceptual mapping, generally you conduct surveys where you actually take information via surveys and try to collect information to put to map the companies or the products across such coordinate system. And this is again helpful when you actually try to see where you want your product to be in. Okay, so for example, you want to make a design which is less conservative, less classy, and which is of price range probably of here of low price but good quality. Okay, so you can use both such kind of maps to define your unique customer segment. So you can use perception mapping for this particular activity. Okay, so coming to the next topic, which is UX bench mapping benchmarking, sorry, UX benchmarking. So I would like to give you a little brief about what is UX benchmarking. Now benchmarking, already I have discussed like what is benchmarking. Benchmarking means when you have a product, either you compare with a new version of the product. For example, if you have a Nintendo gaming console and you have a old generation versus a new generation, you try to see how the previous version or the new version is different, or how good or better is the new version than compared to the old version. The same benchmarking you can do when you try to compare your product with a competitive products. For example, Amazon and Flipkart both are e-commerce website, and if you are the designer of Amazon, you try to actually benchmark your product against Flipkart. Now these are what we call as benchmarking. But what we are benchmarking also depends upon what we are going to do as a designer. Now if we compare, if we do benchmarking based on features, okay, that means we are considering features to evaluate. Now if we try to benchmark UX, that means experience, user experience. So users experience, as we know, is stands for UX, stand for user experience. Now we want to benchmark here user experience. That means what sort of mental activity or physical activity a user have to involve in when they try to use a particular product, and which they feel is better, which is more user friendly, and which provide better ease of use. Okay, so these, for doing such benchmarking, we do UX benchmarking. Okay, so now UX benchmarking is something which we can consider as qualitative in nature, as well as some of the aspects are also quantitative in nature. Now let's say when we compare, when you actually try to buy a t-shirt in Amazon, what sort of um, user experience we can actually collect. Okay, now we can ask a particular person like, okay, how do you feel after finishing your buying process? That particular user can say, okay, it was very easy, very easy. Someone may say, okay, it was confusing, confusing. Now see the difference in the answers. Now when you ask the same question, what is your feeling after completion, someone can say it is easy, someone can say it is confusing. Now they are not talking about the same skill. Now this is the problem when we try to analyze information using qualitative matrices. Okay, and if you do define our qualitative matrices, that will, in that time, the we are actually biasing the user to get to give information what actually we are looking for. That's why instead of qualitative testing, we do quantitative testing. Okay, in UX benchmarking. Now I'll discuss how we do that. But first, we need to understand like UX benchmarking, that is user experience benchmarking, we do to assess design iterations, which I already told you. Okay, and features that influence mental process or activities. Now when you actually comparing two designs, or comparing your new design with a competitive product, you are actually trying to evaluate in terms of mental processes that are required and in terms of activities they are required. That means you are evaluating both physical as well as mental processes. Okay, but how? We'll discuss. Now, we need to have some sort of standard frame of reference, some meaningful standard or frame of reference to actually compare against. Okay. Now, when we're actually comparing two versions of the same product, what benchmark, what standard frame of reference we have is actually the previous one. So, for example, if the navigation time or the task completion time for a particular application, a particular task with the previous design is 0.8 second, then that is the standard we will consider as a frame of reference. Now the new design is faster, so it provides you 0.4 second. Okay, so this is a reference. Okay, so benchmarking always needs some sort of standard meaningful frame of reference so that we can compare. Again, when you actually perform competitive benchmarking, there we take average information, average of uh, what has been provided in the competitive landscape, and we compare our data with that particular data. For example, average task completion of a t-shirt buying across various website, for example Flipkart, Amazon, Myntra, etc., maybe 4 seconds. And you are making your interface so easy that it save you time and provide you an interface which can perform that particular task in 2 seconds. That means now you are considering 4 seconds as that particular standard frame of reference. So in either of the cases, you should have some sort of standard meaningful frame of reference. Okay, otherwise you will not be able to benchmark your user experience solution. Now we collect information using quantitative usability testing. So usability testing means where actually you let the user use a particular solution, which can be a software application or a product, and you then try to collect information in terms of quantitative information, or you can take information from system log data. And there are other techniques also like analysis, which is more like web analytics. Okay, so you are getting information automatically. Then you can also consider surveys. Now surveys and usability testing can be clubbed together, but surveys is more like when you are looking for large sample size and you have some sort of questionnaire which are simpler in nature, and you are actually flowing the questions. You are providing that question to a large number of people and try to get information. Okay, as quantitative average. So these are various example of what a quantitative metrics can be. So matrices are basically the measurable value with a some sort of unit. Now you have a value here. For example, 4 second, when I say we have a value and a matrix. Now when we are talking about user experience, now user experience is a feeling about we discussed previously about what are the various factors or primary um, features of usability, which are like learnability, effectiveness, ease of use, etc. Now those are qualitative in nature, but we need to identify some way how we can actually measure those. For example, here using some quantitative approach, we can measure average time to make a purchase. That means we are getting information about efficiency. Now efficiency is a qualitative measure, but to measure efficiency indirectly, we are calculating the average time. Now there are also flaws. People can actually waste their time when they are actually going to purchase a t-shirt, but there is no way we can actually detect whether that particular person is wasting his time in, or he's like waiting there just looking at the t-shirt. So we cannot figure that out, but we can measure only the time that takes to make that particular purchase. So measuring that particular average time probably will give you some measure of the efficiency of that particular process. Now, number of clicks on a button, so which are also again it is easy to measure based on analysis, web analysis, and we can actually know like, okay, this particular button got pressed 5 times, that means this is the visibility of that particular product is very much, so learnability is more. So these are all also we can measure, so learnability we can measure like that. Then success rate of completion of task completion, so we can say like, okay, if the particular person can finish that particular buying action, that means the interface is very effective, that means it is giving good results. So effectiveness of that particular interface can be measured by measuring this particular quantitative matrix. Then average ease of use. Now ease of ease is difficult to measure, so you just ask that particular person to rate, give some rating on ease of use. So he can say, okay, 4 out of 5 for ease of use. Someone can give 3 out of 5. Now you can later see what average rating you are getting. So you are again measuring ease of use. 8-week retention rate for a app. That means you want try to measure percentage of user continue to use that particular app after 8 weeks. Now these can be collected from system log data or from web analysis, where you will be knowing like what is the retention rate particular application. This will give you a indication about the engaging, how engaging a particular application. Okay, if the particular application is not engaging, then probably people will stop using it. Okay, so this qualitative usability informations, so UX measures can be done using such quantitative measures. So this is why we use quantitative metrics instead of qualitative metrics for UX benchmarking. Okay. Okay, so here's an example of UX benchmarking. So for example, if you want to compare two versions of a product, for example, one version in 2019, the average time to make a purchase was 58 seconds. For example, here you consider you have a two version of Amazon, one in 2019, the another one is Amazon 2023. So version 1, version 2. Now 2019 you want to, it takes 58 seconds, okay, to make a purchase. Now in 2023 it is reduced to 43 seconds. That means the efficiency of that particular flow of navigation, or because you use some filters, because you identify some new hierarchy of information, okay, due to all such design changes, now the purchase can be done within 43 seconds. So now your interface is faster than previous. So this is how we do benchmarking. So 58 second is the standard frame of reference that we have when we are comparing these two interfaces. Then UX benchmarking against a competitor. So example can be the success rate of application completion is 86%, while our competitor is 62%. That means 62% is now a standard frame of reference which we consider as the minimum that we need to achieve. But when we actually perform the particular test, usability testing, we identified that our completion rate is 86%. That means our interface is more effective. Then when you try to benchmark against any industry standard, which is like average. So here's an example. The average ease of use rating for creating an account on our hotel website is 5.3. Okay, now average ease of use rating for that task in a study of top 6 website is 6.5. That means our rating is a bit low than the average. That means we need to improve. So this is how we do benchmarking. Then stakeholder determined goal. That means as a designer or as a stakeholder, we can actually decide certain goals. Sometimes what happens when a particular subject area is not of our knowledge, we consider stakeholder determinant goal. Sometimes it may happen when we do not have access to data or it is difficult to get such information, then we consider stakeholder determined goal. For example, 8 weeks retention rate is 8%, but we are aiming for at least 15%. So this is based on some analysis which says like average, for average duration, okay, for 8 weeks, like 8% of the people actually retain that particular application. So cause can be either they forgot to delete or intentionally they delete when they don't like. So either, in either cases, the average retention is 8%, but we are aiming for 15%. Now that 15% means you want to make sure that particular application is very much engaging, that people do not want to intentionally delete that particular application. Okay, so this is how we do competitive benchmarking. Oh, sorry, UX benchmarking. Okay, so now we'll learn about how to perform UX benchmarking. Now, already I gave example what is UX benchmarking, how to do that, but this is more systematic in nature. Let's see. Now, very first thing we need to identify is like what to measure. So again, for like competitive analysis, we here figure out what product we will be focusing on. Okay, then who will be our target user. It is very important that you do usability testing from your, you know, from the user group that actually intended for. For example, if you are making a banking application, probably you can use any personnel who use banking, who goes to bank or he want to use banking application. But if you want to make something like a, pregnancy app, probably you will be looking for user group as pregnant ladies, because those are the intended user group, and you want to see where your products stand for that particular user group. So again, what features do you want to measure? So this is also you need to determine, because you later want to compare like whether you are looking for efficiency, whether you are looking for task completion, that means effectiveness, or whether you are, looking for error free, etc. So these are the information, qualitative usability information, that you need to decide on what sort of feature you want to measure when you are doing a UX benchmark. Then you need to define the task. Now when you choose a particular feature, now you need to define how, what you will ask that particular person to do. Okay, how you will measure that's the question. So for example, if you have a smart speaker app, so you will probably, the possible task that you will set, you will ask that particular user to perform is setting up a new smart speaker. Okay, then if it's a e-commerce website, if your product is an e-commerce website, probably you will ask a user to perform a purchase. Okay, if it's a mobile banking website, you will ask him to update contact information. So these are various examples which probably you want to benchmark, and which feature actually you are looking for, and you can then define task accordingly. Next is define matrices. So now, previously I had discussed about various frameworks which are more for competitive analysis. Now here for UX, we are mainly discussing about software products. So you can consider something like Google Heart framework, which is a framework for benchmarking software products. So what it define are these six different factors for comparing your product. So these are happiness, engagement, adoption, retention, task effectiveness, and efficiency. Now, if you have your own product and if you have your own key performance indicator, which is a which is your organization's performance indicator, then you can select your own matrices. But for giving an example, I am here taking Google Heart framework as an example to show you how we define matrices. Okay. Now see, happiness is again a qualitative measure. Okay. Now here we are trying to define user attitude and perceptions about happiness. Okay. Now these are qualitative in nature, but we need to have some sort of quantitative approach how to measure this particular attribute happiness. So we can consider satisfaction rating. We can ask that particular user to rate his satisfaction level, for example 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 10, etc., like that. Ease of use rating. So rating generally we use when we try to see, when user himself do not have any quantitative measure, any quantitative markings to define that particular feeling. Okay, then we ask that particular person to provide some sort of rating. For example, measuring particular time is something quantitative and it's well defined. But when you say satisfaction, what is your satisfaction rating? There is no particular matrices available which is quantitative in nature. For example, we cannot say there is no unit of measure for satisfaction. There is no unit of measure for ease of use. So we need to use such ratings when we try to capture information on such qualitative measures, net promoter score, etc. Engagement, another qualitative measure. That means how much engaged, how much, what is the level of engagement the user have when he was using that particular product. Now the way you can measure that particular factor is by measuring the average time on the task. Now this may be a good measure of engagement, but also there may be errors. For example, average time on task may be more because the user faces some issues, okay, or maybe the user was doing something else while performing his task, so the average time got increased. Okay, so somehow we are trying to collect information about how involved a particular interface is with the user. Okay, but we don't have any option but to collect information based on the time frame for which, the time period for which the user is engaged with a particular interface. Feature uses. So the more the number of features uses, that means the user find a particular interface important and actually he's exploring. Okay. Conversion rate, probably this is, if it's a chatbot, probably if you are talking more, probably you will know that a particular interface or particular chatbot is more engaging. So these are various ways how we can do. Now adoption. Adoption means initial uptake of a product, service or feature. Now when you provide information, when you ask the person to do a particular task, first thing is we need to consider how adaptive is that particular interfaces. That means learnability aspects come into picture for a new user. Now how we try to capture those information? By new account. Okay, so if you provide this option, like if it's a visitor and he is a new account holder, probably you will know information after registration that okay, a new person have joined that particular website or that he have registered for that particular activity. So by counting the number of visits or number of accounts opening, you may see like how many people actually choose to adopt that particular interface. Then particular sales, if it is a commercial website like like Amazon, then based on number of sales happen from your website, you can see how much people use that particular interface. Again, conversion rate is for if it is a chatbot. Retention means how existing user will return and remain active in a particular portal. So once the particular user crosses that initial barrier of learnability, he is no more a new or a beginner. He is now a intermediate or expert user. Now we try to check how many of them actually return for that particular application. So again, we can see, you can give options like, are you a returning user or a new user? So if someone select returning user, that means okay, that many people actually have returned. Okay, so these are various, like renewal rate is also something like when someone um, takes things like a subscription basis like Amazon Prime account, and how many actually people, how many times people renew that particular application. So this is means people are returning to that particular uh, product. They are not actually going away to competitive products. So okay, to understand that, you do this. Then task effectiveness. So when you design the interface, their hierarchy, the navigation, then we have to see how much effective are the particular interface, error free. So all those measures we can measure by doing identifying these quantitative measures. Like we can measure number of error counts, we can also measure number of success rates, we can also measure based on time on task, like how efficient is this particular interface. So likewise, what we do here is we try to benchmark the we try to benchmark a particular product based on these qualitative measure, and for that we try to identify some quantitative measures by which these factors can be understood. Okay, and these are examples. So defining metrics. So defining these metrics, like how to capture that information, is what is the job as a third task. Now deciding how to measure. Now, okay, now matrices are done. Now you need to choose like what particular procedure you will be following. Now tasks are already defined, like what you will ask, what sort of features you will be benchmarking, and what sort of matrices you will be using. But now you need to decide on what sort of test, what sort of procedure you will ask that particular person to follow. Now usability testing is one way where you will ask that particular person to perform that particular task, and you will be either observing him, recording his activities, and try to maybe probably ask him to perform think aloud protocol to capture his mental model. And you can also use your questionnaires in between to capture those information about the matrices. Okay, for example, time on task, success rate, all these can be analytics based on the information log data of that particular task. You can collect this information. Second particular technique you can use like analytics. So you can use system usage data or web analytics to identify number of clicks, login information, renewal data, etc. So this is again one way how we can collect information on some system usage data. So after you finished uh, usability testing, probably you can combine information from what you can see and what you can heard from the user interaction. You can also consider information that is been stored in in the particular device or website, where you have the information about usage data, about number of clicks, the way the particular person navigates, etc. So this is analytics. Then surveys again, you can give simple tasks to users, and then try to collect information about their ratings, like how they think the ease of use, etc. So this is again similar to Amazon reviews. So you can consider Amazon reviews are large chunks of survey information, which actually you can consider for the UX benchmarking. Now establishing baseline metrics. Now establishing baseline metrics is same as I discussed previously. Like you need some sort of standard frame of reference. Now when you try to do either competitive benchmarking, or you want to do you want to compare your own version of the product, you need to all first you need to also establish the baseline metrics. So for that, if it is a competitive product, you perform usability testing as well as survey. But if you do not have if your product is not competitive product, you can use all the three methods. So you can use also system analytics information, because generally in competitive products, these will not be used, these will not be accessible to you, because these are system information. So for competitive products, probably you will not be able to collect information, such informations. Okay, so these five things you need to perform when you do UX benchmarking. Okay, so last topic, so which is about design brief. Now after we do all the set of uh, user study activity. Like first we did user study where we did contextual inquiry and we do various qualitative quantitative. Then we do user study, oh sorry, user data analysis. There also I discussed about various qualitative as well as quantitative techniques. Then cognitive processes also, like we try to capture those information also using KLM gongs. Then today we learn about market analysis and finally benchmarking. Now before benchmarking, actually we need to create a design brief. Now all these data we need when you actually first define the design brief. Now based on the design brief only we go ahead with the design process. The design brief is nothing but a document that provides details about all sort of design requirements. Okay. So it includes what we are building. So we need to define like what products we are building, what is the business scope. Okay, so what we are looking for. So when you are saying like business scope, are you a product company or a service company? So we need to define that. Then we want to see if we are a service company, what particular service we are doing. If we are doing this particular service, for example, if you're doing a food service, are you making a application like a food panda or a Zomato, that we need to decide. So we need to consider what we are building. So if we say we are making something like a Zomato application, that means that's where we need to define our product. Then design problems we are trying to solve. Now based on our competitive analysis, we need to identify what are the traits, what are the weaknesses, what are the opportunities, as well as where the particular competitive products lie in terms of market share, again growth rate, and where we want to position ourselves, okay, based for various features. So we need to understand that and we try to address like what sort of design problems we are trying to solve. Okay, and when you perform that particular design task, what we'll have as the end of what sort of assets we'll have. For example, we may require human resource, so those will be permanent part of our organization. We may also need collaboration with some people, and also we may have something like a patent. Okay, so those will be the assets that we'll have when we actually end our projects as per the desired goal. Then we need to define our goal. Now goal is a bit more specific. Based on the design problem, we then try to define the exact goal that we want to achieve, and for that particular goal we need to define the subtask or objectives. Now subtasks and objectives are, for example, a goal can be developing a food service application for local uh, okay, from local uh, houses or women's. Now this particular aspect is unique value proposition which we identified after we did our competitive analysis. So we see like this particular gap is missing, which is delivering food from local homes. Okay, that is mean it will be not a restaurant food, it will be like homemade food. We are developing a new food service. So this is the goal. Now for that we'll be defining our objectives. For example, to design the architecture, to develop the software, to test. So all these will be the objectives. Then we need to define the target market, who will be the customer, what probably the age and demography. Okay, because we need to consider what sort of food profiles, what sort of recipes we need to consider based on the age and demographies. Then budget, okay, how much budget we have, okay, and also pricing of your food items or your service. All these things you need to consider. Then project deliverables, at the project what all you will be delivering at the end of your design process. So this is what all included in a design brief. So here's an example, okay, what all goes inside design brief. This all goes inside, but this is one small picture I got from internet, which is here the reference. Now, a design brief, it talks about the overview of your project as well as the scope. It defines the objectives, okay, the importance and what we are trying to achieve. The target audience, who will be our customers and what will be their specific characteristics, etc. The budgets we have, okay, and how will be spent, and the timelines and deliverables, like what will be delivering, what will be a timeline. So we probably have to define things in terms of Gantt chart, probably in 3 years probably, or in the 1 year we'll be developing this particular product, and what will be the time frame for each objectives. All these things we need to decide, we need to define in a design brief. Okay, so that's the end of today's class, and if you have any doubts, please feel free to ask. Okay, I hope there are no doubts. So next class will be Tuesday, and please be there. Thank you, thank you for coming to the class. Bye.